The courtroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Grace Miller stood tall at the witness stand, her hand trembling as she held a stack of documents. Across from her sat Charles Reed, the man the world knew as a wealthy philanthropist, a respected businessman, and her father's lifelong best friend. But Grace knew the darker truth. Her voice shook, but she spoke clearly. 3 years ago, my own father threw me out of his house when I became pregnant. No one asked me who the father was. No one believed me. But today, the truth comes out. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Her father, Robert Miller, sat in the gallery, his gray head bowed, his eyes wet with shame. And then Grace said it. Charles Reed is not only the man who betrayed my family's trust. He is also the father of my child. The room exploded with whispers. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed. And just like that, the life Charles Reed had built over decades came crashing down. But Grace's journey to this moment began long before the courtroom, back in a small Texas town, when she was only 17. Grace Miller had been the golden girl of Fairview, Texas. Sweet, smart, and kind, she was the daughter everyone compared their kids to. Her mother, Linda, was the heart of the community, warm, generous, and well-loved. Her father, Robert Miller, was a proud man, a respected elder in town, and known for his strict morals. Grace was the joy of their home. Until the day everything changed. At first, it was little things. Grace stopped smiling, grew tired, and spent long nights sick to her stomach. Her mother grew worried and finally dragged her to the small-town doctor. The truth broke Linda's heart. Your daughter is 6 weeks pregnant. Linda begged Grace to reveal the father's name. But Grace, with tears streaming down her face, refused. When Robert Miller found out, his rage shook the whole neighborhood. You've brought shame to my name, he thundered. If you want to play adult, then live like one. From this day forward, you are no longer my daughter. He packed her things into a trash bag and threw them onto the street. Her mother wept, begging him to reconsider, but his pride was stronger than his love. So at 17, Grace walked barefoot out of her home, carrying only a bag of clothes and the weight of a secret too heavy for her young heart. Grace wandered from town to town, hungry and scared, until a kind older woman named Mrs. Jenkins took her in. Mrs. Jenkins treated Grace like her own child, fed her, and gave her shelter. Grace began to hope again. But one night, Grace overheard Mrs. Jenkins in the next room, bargaining with a wealthy man to sell her unborn baby for cash. Grace's blood went cold. She realized even kindness could hide betrayal. That very night, she ran. She ended up in Houston, where a smooth-talking businessman named Derek Thompson offered her a place to stay. For months, he treated her kindly, until one night, he revealed his true intentions. Nothing in life is free, Grace. I've taken care of you. Now it's time for you to take care of me. Grace grabbed her newborn daughter, Hope, and fled into the dark streets, crying and barefoot. It was a pastor's wife, Martha White, who found her that night on the church steps. Martha gave Grace a bed, food, and, most importantly, dignity. Slowly, Grace rebuilt her life. She learned to bake pastries, started selling them outside the church, and named her little business after her daughter, Hope's Treats. Her pies and cakes became so popular that soon she was making a living. More importantly, she was raising Hope in a home filled with love, not fear. But danger wasn't finished testing her. One Sunday, a wealthy woman named Vanessa Cole noticed Grace outside the church. Dressed in diamonds and designer heels, Vanessa offered Grace mentorship and an escape from struggle. You're too beautiful and too smart to waste your life selling pastries in the sun, she said. At first, Vanessa seemed like a savior. She introduced Grace to luxury, mansions, expensive gifts, and powerful connections. But Grace soon noticed something off. The other girls who lived with Vanessa wore fancy clothes and jewelry, but their smiles never reached their eyes. One night, Grace overheard Vanessa on the phone. Yes, Senator, she's perfect. Young, innocent, easy to mold. You'll have her this weekend. Grace's heart dropped. Vanessa wasn't a mentor. She was a trafficker, grooming young women for the rich and powerful. This time, Grace didn't just run. She gathered evidence, recordings, phone calls, and photographs, and exposed Vanessa's operation online. The story went viral, sparking nationwide outrage. Vanessa fled the country, her empire destroyed. Suddenly, Grace wasn't just a survivor. She was a hero. Her pastry brand, Hope's Treats, exploded in popularity. She opened shops across Houston and Dallas, hired other single mothers, and became a voice for women who had suffered in silence. But still, her past haunted her. 3 years after being cast out, Grace received an invitation to a lavish Dallas wedding. She was catering the cake, a 5-tier masterpiece that everyone was buzzing about. But when she saw the groom's face on the banner at the entrance, her world stopped. It was Charles Reed, her father's best friend. The man she had once trusted like an uncle. The man who had stolen her innocence. Grace froze, her daughter, Hope, tugging gently at her dress. A friend asked why she looked pale. With tears in her eyes, Grace whispered the truth. Charles Reed is Hope's father. He is the reason I was cast out. Word spread like wildfire through the wedding hall. The bride fled in tears. The wedding collapsed in chaos, and by nightfall, police had arrived. The courtroom scene that followed shocked the nation. Grace stood before the world and broke her silence. She revealed how Charles Reed had groomed her as a teenager, how he had violated her, and how fear had kept her quiet. She showed evidence she had collected, alongside testimonies from others who came forward after her courage. Charles Reed was handcuffed in front of cameras, his empire destroyed overnight. Back in Fairview, Robert Miller watched the news in silence. The truth he had refused to hear 3 years earlier now screamed across every television screen. His pride had blinded him, and it had cost him his daughter. When Grace finally returned home, she stood at the same front yard where he had once thrown her out. Her mother ran to embrace her, weeping. Her father stepped forward, broken, humbled, and fell to his knees. I cursed you when I should have protected you, he whispered. Please forgive me. Grace helped him up. I didn't come back for revenge, Papa. I came back for healing. And for Hope, to know she has a family. She handed him documents, proof she had paid off all his debts, bought back the land he lost, and restored the family name he had let slip away. Tears streamed down his face as little Hope reached out and hugged his leg. Are you my grandpa? She asked softly. Robert Miller broke down, holding his granddaughter close. For the first time in years, the Miller home filled with laughter again. Grace Miller went on to found a nationwide nonprofit for single mothers and survivors of abuse. She built shelters, funded schools, and turned her pain into a movement. She had once been a girl cast out with nothing. Now she was a woman who returned with everything: truth, success, and the power to heal not just herself, but countless others. The same town that had whispered against her now sang her name with pride. And the father who once rejected her now told everyone who would listen, "My daughter is my greatest teacher."